Most people get pulled into the narcissist's game without even realizing it. The charm, the flattery, the manipulation. By the time they see what's really going on, they're already trapped. But the INFJ? They're different. INFJs have something narcissists don't expect: depth. They see behind words. They hear what isn't said. And they understand people, not just on the surface, but at the level of motivation, fear, and intent. That's why narcissists struggle to control them. It's not about being aggressive. It's not about shouting or fighting back. INFJs crush narcissists in a quiet, calculated, and absolutely devastating way. Because they don't play the game. They watch it. They figure it out. And then they take control of their own role within it. When a narcissist targets an INFJ, they expect someone soft, ascendant, forgiving, easy to manipulate. What they don't realize is that under that calm surface is someone who has studied people their whole life. Someone who knows what manipulation feels like and refuses to fall for it again. This video looks at the exact ways INFJs protect themselves from narcissists and how they can even turn the tables. Not with cruelty, but with truth. Not with drama, but with clarity. It's about how INFJs win the psychological battle without ever having to raise their voice. By 10. Number 1. They spot the manipulation. Immediately. Narcissists are good at hiding their true selves at first. They mirror, flatter, and charm. They make people feel special, needed, important. And most people fall for it because they want to believe the image being shown to them. But INFJs don't just look at what's being said. They feel what's behind it. When a narcissist starts laying on compliments, the INFJ doesn't melt. They pause. They notice. They ask, why now? What do they want? What aren't they saying? Their mind starts scanning for patterns. They listen closely, but not just to words. They watch body language. They pick up on inconsistencies. And they notice when someone says one thing and does another. Because INFJs don't trust surface-level charm. They trust their gut. That's where the narcissist makes their first mistake. They assume the INFJ is slow to catch on. But in reality, the INFJ is already collecting data. They may smile, nod, and play along at first, but mentally, they're miles ahead. They see the small lies, the guilt trips, the shifting of blame. And because they've likely experienced manipulation before, they know exactly what it looks like now. The narcissist tries to control the narrative. The INFJ listens, remembers, and watches for cracks. They don't need proof to know something is wrong. They can feel it. That feeling becomes their internal alarm. And once it's triggered, the INFJ becomes emotionally cautious. They don't confront right away. They don't react. They observe. And during that time, the narcissist still believes they're winning. But in reality, the INFJ is learning. They're decoding the game. And they're preparing to step back before the damage gets worse. This early awareness gives INFJs a huge advantage. Because while others are still trying to understand what's happening, the INFJ has already figured it out. They don't fall deeper. They pull back. Quietly. And that distance makes the narcissist start to lose power. Way number 2. They don't react with anger. They respond with calm logic. Narcissists thrive on reactions. They want you to get emotional. They want to push your buttons. Whether it's anger, sadness, or confusion, your emotional response gives them control. It makes them feel powerful. And for most people, that pressure works. But INFJs don't explode. They calculate. When a narcissist tries to provoke them, the INFJ takes a breath. They step back mentally. They look at the situation like a puzzle, not a personal attack. and instead of reacting emotionally, they respond with calm logic. This throws the narcissist off. They're expecting drama. They're used to people defending themselves, begging for answers, or lashing out. But when the INFJ stays cool, focused, and clear, it's like their control vanishes. The INFJ may ask a question that hits harder than any insult. They may point out a contradiction the narcissist wasn't ready to explain. Or they may simply say nothing at all, just stare, steady and quiet. That silence is powerful. It forces the narcissist to deal with the one thing they fear most, being seen clearly. The INFJ doesn't argue to win. They speak to understand. But that understanding cuts deep because it reveals the truth behind the manipulation. And once the narcissist realizes their tricks aren't working, their confidence starts to crack. This doesn't mean the INFJ is never emotional. But when it matters most, when a narcissist is trying to get under their skin, they know how to stay centered. They have learned that their energy is valuable, and they won't waste it on someone who only wants control. Their calm is their weapon. Their logic is their armor. And when they speak with clarity, not chaos, the narcissist loses the one thing they were trying to gain: power. Way number 3. They set boundaries before it's too late. One of the biggest reasons narcissists get away with manipulation is because people don't set limits. They excuse behavior. They let things slide. They avoid conflict. But INFJs are different. They notice when something feels off, and they act on it before it goes too far. At first, INFJs might give someone the benefit of the doubt. But if patterns start to form, emotional manipulation, subtle put-downs, controlling behavior, they start building walls. Quiet ones, clear ones. And once those boundaries are up, they're hard to break. The INFJ may begin by limiting contact, not answering messages right away, being unavailable for last-minute demands, saying no without explanation. These small shifts confuse narcissists because they're used to people who give in easily. But the INFJ isn't playing along. They're not trying to punish. They're trying to protect. Boundaries for an INFJ aren't about control, they're about self-respect. They don't want to be caught in emotional games. They don't want their empathy used against them. So they draw the line early and they do it without guilt. Narcissists hate this. They see boundaries as rejection. They'll try to push back, using charm, pressure, or guilt. But INFJs don't move. They've already seen the pattern, and they know what happens if they let their guard down again. What makes INFJ boundaries so powerful is that they don't always come with confrontation. They come with clarity. The INFJ doesn't explain every step. They don't argue about their right to protect their peace. They just act. Quietly. Consistently. And over time, the narcissist finds themselves on the outside, with no way back in. This ability to set and keep boundaries is one of the strongest ways INFJs protect themselves, and one of the clearest ways they crush narcissistic control. Because without access, the narcissist loses their grip. And once that door closes, it rarely reopens. Way number 4, they use empathy as a tactical tool. Most people see empathy as a soft skill, a kind trait, a way to understand others and offer kindness. And for INFJs, that's true. But when it comes to narcissists, empathy becomes something else, a shield and a sword. INFJs don't just feel what others feel. They understand why people do what they do. That includes narcissists. While others are caught off guard by the narcissist's charm or cruelty, the INFJ is studying it. They're asking, what is this person trying to get? What are they afraid of? Where is the weakness they're hiding? This insight allows the INFJ to stay calm. Because instead of taking the narcissist's behavior personally, they see it for what it is: a defense, a mask, a performance. And that emotional distance gives the INFJ the power to stay grounded. They don't pity the narcissist, but they do understand them. And that understanding becomes a tactical advantage. For example, when a narcissist tries to guilt-trip the INFJ doesn't just react. They ask why the narcissist needs guilt to get what they want. When a narcissist tries to dominate a conversation, the INFJ doesn't argue. They shift the energy with silence or reflection. They can predict patterns. They can sense emotional weak spots, and they use that insight to avoid traps and stay in control of their own response. What makes this disturbing to the narcissist is that it feels like the INFJ sees through them. Not just their actions, but their inner world, the fears, the shame, the insecurity. And when someone sees them that clearly, the narcissist loses their illusion of power. INFJs don't use this empathy to manipulate, but they do use it to protect themselves. They know the difference between helping someone and enabling their dysfunction. And once they see that a person is feeding off others, rather than growing, they step back. This kind of clear, conscious empathy is rare, and it's one of the main reasons INFJs are so hard for narcissists to control. Because the narcissist's usual tricks don't work when the other person already knows why they're being used. Way number 5, they withdraw and choose where to invest their energy. Narcissists are used to attention. They feed on it. Whether it's admiration, fear, or even anger, they need emotional energy from others to feel important. But INFJs don't give that away easily, especially once they realize what's really going on. When the INFJ sees that someone is taking more than they give, they stop investing. Not out of hate. Not out of revenge. Out of self-preservation. They quietly begin the process of pulling back their time, energy, and emotional presence. This withdrawal doesn't come with announcements. The INFJ doesn't say, "I'm leaving you behind." They just stop showing up emotionally. They become harder to reach, harder to read, harder to manipulate. And that silence speaks louder than any confrontation. For the narcissist, this is devastating. They can't feed off someone who's no longer emotionally available. They try to provoke a reaction. They test boundaries. They bring up the past. But none of it works. Because the INFJ has made a decision, not out of emotion, but out of clarity. They know their energy is sacred. They know not everyone deserves access to it. And they've learned that just because someone wants them around doesn't mean they should be there. This emotional detachment isn't cold, it's wise. It allows the INFJ to heal, to grow, and to focus on relationships that are mutual, respectful, and real. And the narcissist? They're left with nothing. No reaction. No fight. No drama. Just silence. And for someone who thrives on attention, that silence is a kind of defeat they don't know how to handle. INFJs win not by overpowering, but by refusing to play. And when they choose to stop giving energy to someone who only takes, they end the cycle completely. Way number 6, their self-worth is deep enough to outlast the narc's supply games. Narcissists rely on what's called supply. This means attention, praise, admiration, any form of emotional energy that feeds their ego. Most people, when targeted by a narcissist, get pulled into this cycle without knowing it. They seek approval. They try to keep the peace. They want to be valued. But INFJs don't stay in that game. Even if they fall for it at first, something inside them eventually clicks. They realize their worth isn't defined by someone else's opinion. It doesn't depend on validation. It doesn't rise and fall with how the narcissist treats them that day. This is where everything changes. When the narcissist tries to withhold affection or praise to regain control, the INFJ doesn't chase it. They notice the shift. They feel the emotional coldness. But instead of reacting with desperation, they turn inward. They ground themselves in who they are, not who someone else wants them to be. That inner strength is something the narcissist can't touch. INFJs have been through enough to know that real self-worth comes from alignment, not approval. It comes from living in truth, not performance. And once they decide they're done giving energy to someone who feeds off control, they stick to that decision. The narcissist will test them, try to bait them, try to pull them back in. But the INFJ won't budge. Not because they're angry, but because they've learned the lesson, and once they learn it, they don't forget. What makes INFJs so effective against narcissists is that they don't rely on outside validation to feel whole. They find their strength in their insight, their clarity, and their refusal to betray their own values. And when someone can't be controlled by fear of abandonment, silent treatment, or false praise, the narcissist runs out of moves. That's how the INFJ ends the game, by stepping out of it. With self-respect, with quiet power, and with the kind of grounded confidence that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Narcissists play games. They twist reality, demand attention, and feed off control. But INFJs were never made to play those games. They were made to see through them, rise above them, and walk away with their peace still intact. They spot the lies before anyone else. They don't give emotional reactions. They set boundaries and hold them. They understand others so deeply they can't be surprised. And when it's time to step back, they do it with a silence that says more than words ever could. Most of all, they know their worth. They don't need to be told who they are. And when someone tries to take that power away, the INFJ doesn't fight for it, they protect it. They guard their mind, their heart, and their energy like something sacred. Because it is. That's how they crush narcissists. Not with rage, not with revenge, but with self-awareness, quiet strength, and a refusal to be controlled. If you're an INFJ who's dealt with a narcissist, share your experience in the comments. If you're still healing, know this: your clarity is your shield. Your peace is your power. And the moment you stop explaining yourself to someone who's not listening, you win. Let us know what topic you want us to dive into next.